before. But then she said, Sapna, you should always have your hand up and never hand your down. And that, I get my goosebumps when I tell this, but that was a moment I realized you have to be always financially independent. You cannot, am I going to sob about things which is happening, or am I going to create an opportunity for myself where I'm going to ask me something which raised the biggest red flag in me. And then he said, are you planning for a pregnancy? I said,
Hey everyone, welcome to I'm a Recruiter podcast. I'm your host, Prafulla Deori. I'm thrilled to have you with us today. I'm a Recruiter is more than just a podcast. It is a movement by and for talent acquisition professionals. Our vision is to create a seamless network of recruiters from classroom to boardroom. Our mission is to create a collaborative platform that connects, empowers any TA professionals, providing end-to-end support across talent acquisition landscape. If you're getting any value out of our content, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share, and also let us know what you think in the comment section below. Let's build this community together. So with this, it's time to welcome our guest. Some leaders follow path, others carve their own. Our guest today, Sapna Jhawer, belongs to a second category with over 2 decades of experience in technology, product, business. She has mastered all of building, scaling, driving business even in the most challenging environment. From leading 220 million enterprise revamp to doubling revenue, Sapna has consistently turned vision into reality. Her real superpower, frugality, discipline, execution, and first principle approach to solving business problems. She believes in great products and companies aren't built on big budget alone, but on clarity, deep focus on value. Today, we are diving into her journey, her challenges, what strategy that have shaped her success. We also explore how AI is transforming recruitment, her take on current hiring trends, and what future hold for talent acquisition landscape from her angle. With this, Sapna, welcome to I Am a Recruiter podcast. We are really excited to have the conversation, to have the discussion, to know what thought process you have and what have made you successful in your journey so far. So once again, welcome and thank you so much for your time.
kudos to you. You've done a wonderful job with your podcast. I've been following you from a really long time, and I love the way you bring out the journey of the people and connect the dots. How business can cater to talent acquisition team members, and how talent acquisition team members contribute to the entire business. So congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. So before we start, Sapna, we just wanted to know a little bit about you, who Sapna really is. Like, can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you were born, which city you did your education, studies, and other things, and how were you as a student?
Yeah, I'm a girl from a very simple middle class family. I was the eldest among my siblings, and I belong to a Marwadi family, which I was grown and in and around businesses. My mother was a businesswoman as well. Business is something which comes very near to me, and it's in my blood. I can sense it, is what I can feel. And I did my basic education in the same school. I started my school from KG to the 12th standard. And then I got into my engineering from REC Bhalki. And then that's an interesting story because I wanted to do commerce. I was very sure I wanted to do a CA, open my own office and practice. And then by the time I hit my 11th standard, which is a PUC first year, the commerce in my school was closed. I had no other option than to choose science. And we were lucky enough to choose PCMB, but the very first class I went and I saw in the lab that my seniors were dissecting the mouse. And I was like, I cannot do this. I will go back to Sanskrit. So I chose PCM, physics, chemistry, maths, and Sanskrit because my goal was clear. I just have to do 12th standard and I have to go and do my CA. But then, all of us gave the engineering entrance. I also gave and I cracked engineering college. And one of my uncle who has been my mentor from my childhood, he told, it's not that bad. Engineering is good. You can just give it a try. And, I got into my engineering and then it was like love at first sight because when you start studying, you start realizing there's so much to learn. There is so much to uncover. There's so much of logic. It was lovely. And then I decided this is the field I want to go. So that's how I did my engineering. In 2005, I passed out. I came to Bangalore. I started my career and the rest is the history. 20 years are now gone by.
Awesome. That's really great. And like one of the questions which I love asking people during the podcast is, how were you as a student? Because I was kind of a very average student during my school days. The reason why I try to ask this question because to inspire students as well, because many students feel that they take studies very seriously, but it doesn't matter, right? You should know what your goal is and things will fall in place. So because of that, I try to ask every guest of us, like, how were you as a student? If you can tell us.
I was not an excellent student, but I was above average. And I used to be the first bencher who used to sit in the class, very, like I was a good girl from
Okay.
every aspect. Because, again, that comes from societal conditioning. If you go to any Marwadi family, right, the women are trained in multiple domains and multiple aspects from the childhood. So I don't remember enjoying any summer vacation after fourth standard. Every summer vacation was some class I was doing. I learned painting, I learned stitching, I have done a beautician's course, and I learned how to cook. I mean, like, and everything. There was some or the other thing I kept learning, And my parents were very, very sure about, my dad and my mom were very sure that studies is something which you will have to do it. There is no excuse to that. And because of the other aspect, I was trained into multiple things. I was trained in Bharatanatyam from a childhood. So one of my maths teacher, I remember, he was such a sweetheart. So both said he's no more now, but he's one of our favorite teachers ever. He told me that, Sapna, you need to stop dancing and start concentrating on maths. And his wife, who's still around us, and she's our favorite as well, Sunita ma'am, she said, dancing actually helps you unlock your brain. So it's okay, let her dance. So yeah, I was blessed with good teachers also, Prafulla, because they were very encouraging. I started acting and I did a radio show when I was pretty young. So that is when I did realize how do you change your voice and modulation to enact a certain emotions. I was trained in all of those things from my childhood, from my school.
Good to know. So generally, you have mentioned that you were from a business family, background family. So have you like ever thought like of starting something of your own, which might make an impact in different person's life? Have you got those thoughts in your mind sometime?
When I passed on to my siblings, all my siblings are into business. So I believe that when you're working also, you are actually doing a business. When you are, like, for example, in my role, I'm a product person, right? I'm responsible for this entire things. I think my job is also a business to me because I'm responsible for making money for my company. And according to me, business is nothing but an aspect where you're responsible for, for a certain input, maximizing the output. I know people believe in high scaling, burning money, but I come from that frugal mindset, scarcity mindset, where I cannot take decisions where I don't see, the finance working out correctly. That's about me. If I ever wanted to start on my own, yes, there were thoughts. And I did realize that you need to have a finance cushion or a money cushion to be able to do what you do. And I, unfortunately, was never a very huge risk taker in my earlier career.
So my next question for you is like, before we understand what is your current roles and responsibilities, what you do, if you can quickly tell us, are you from Bangalore itself, or like you were born and brought up in Bangalore or some other place of India?
Yeah, so I'm a true example of an Indian, right? I was born in Maharashtra. I was raised in Andhra and Karnataka. Basically my ancestral roots belong to Rajasthan. I got married to a guy whose ancestral roots are in Rajasthan, but he settled in West Bengal. His mom's side family is in Assam, and all of our relatives are everywhere in India. And I've been in Karnataka for almost 40 years now, not 40 years, 39 years now.
So you are a true example of India, I would say. Everywhere you have your roots, connections, and everything. So
Yes.
I can connect one of the angle, Karnataka and Assam. So Assam is my hometown. Then Karnataka, it's been almost like 14, 15 years I have been here. So definitely we can connect somehow. Great.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what you do currently and what kind of business impact you are making? Because I have seen your profile, we have discussed multiple things, but for the audience, they don't know who Sapna is. So if you can quickly brief those as well.
Yeah. So I scale businesses by aligning technology, strategy, and people, trying to maximize the profit with whatever we have. And I do that in the capacity of Director of IT Product and Program Management in the organization Curriculum Associates. It's an organization which is 54-year-old, and it's an education technology company and a print publishing company. So we are serving around 14 million students already, and we will be serving much more. So what do I do? So I actually take care of their products, and I take care of the agile transformation department of theirs. So that's about me. And yeah, that's what I do in this company.
Awesome. Great. Good to know. So you have led a high stake transformation in multiple different organizations as well. So what are some of the most challenging projects you have worked on, and how did you navigate it during those processes or time of challenge?
Yeah. So when I was getting coached in project management, when I was doing PMP around 2011, 12 prime frame. So one of the trainers whom we had, she had mentioned an example of Delhi Metro, which will remain with me. Where the project manager, before even getting into like the particular area was supposed to get the metro after 4 years or 5 years. But this guy used to go back and have mohalla meetings and have those committee meetings to understand what are their pain points, what are the, things, what is their mindset, and, slowly come back and start coaching them on what is expected. It was like over communication, But I believe that helped him achieve certain things very smoothly, and they never had to reroute in those areas and all of that. So that stayed with me as a lesson. So when I started doing a digital transformation for a couple of areas in my previous entities, the biggest thing which stuck to me was, when certain people are doing certain things for a really long time, they believe that's is already working, that's the best way to do it. And you come back and you start saying, you know what, this is going to change like this, it's going to be fruitful, and there is nothing tangible you can show because this is something which will happen in future, right? There was a lot of mindset influence and coaching which we had to do as part of digital transformation. More than the actual work, it was dealing with people, understanding their concerns, and trying to solve the concerns while taking care of the things, and then showing them in small and possible what is the tangible value, converting it in the language what they understand, so that they can see what we are trying to do for them, and make the connection in terms of how it is going to benefit them, how it's going to make their life easy. So that is how, and it had to be done for multiple groups in multiple ways, but that's what was the biggest challenge which we had to overcome, because everybody's used to a certain things, and then you're trying to break a habit, trying to break a pattern that requires a lot of coaching and influence.
Yes, good example, I would say. So even in recruitment, so as you know, I belong to the recruitment industry. So in recruitment industry, also all the business leaders have a different thought process, right? But when we as a recruiters deal with people, it depends on the market, it depends on the skills, it depends on lots of different factors, right? But the business leader have the same thought process which they have been carrying, right? So I can definitely relate that some of the time the coaching is definitely important. We have to show them some of the intangible things which will happen in future. If we hire some of the good folks in the team, might impact you, right? It might see it is impacting your cost. In longer run, it will help you grow your organization. So one problem which some of the recruiters currently I have met are facing is they feel very difficult convincing or suggesting their stakeholders. Can you help us as a business person, right? How, as a recruiter, we can influence our stakeholders so that they understand the recruitment language as well?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a little analogy, right?
Yes,
When I was
yes,
growing
yes.
up, and my drama teacher, she was amazing, and I was trying to tell, we've been doing this drama of Prahalad, and
Yes.
the Prahalad series. We were like, why are you trying to change the costumes depending on the kind of people we are trying to showcase it to? And he gave me one particular dialogue saying, so that is something which I always use. So depending on what language the business person understands, as a recruiter, I would highly recommend you guys speak in the same thing. For example, there are certain business people who are dealing with attrition, and that has been a problem for them. So when you actually recruit somebody or you showcase some profiles, you can always contribute or bank upon how the profile journey has been. That person has been consistent in certain companies for certain number of years, and only then that person has come in, and then only that person has changed, and these have been the reasons. Do that background work and then showcase it in that particular way, so that would attract the person's mind or capture the moment, saying, okay, I need this person. And similarly, some person are trying to get person who are, they're not dealing with attrition, they are having a very loyal employee set, and they are not dealing with attrition, but they are always dealing with this thing where they are not getting fresh ideas, they're not able to do the innovation which they're requiring, and they're desperately needing for that. In that case, if I'm a talent acquisition person, I would consistently keep in touch with my business to understand what exactly they're dealing with, and then showcase in that particular angle that this profile has done a certain kind of innovation in their previous lives, and that is how they would be able to get the fresh ideas into the company. So depending on what kind of, it is just not about the technical skill set anymore, it is also about the soft skill, it is also about the culture, it is also about the perspective, what the candidate is going to bring in to our team or the company for that matter. So that is how I would have done if I were a TA, and that is how my TAs are doing with me, saying they understand what exactly we are looking for, and they are able to get those profiles right for us, especially when you're trying to scale teams, right? In my previous 3 lives of my organizations, I have been part of the very early set of employees who are trying to build the teams. So we've been very closely working with the recruitment teams to be able to get the right profiling, right branding, and getting the right set of people to be able to understand what exactly the culture we want to build, how exactly we want to shape the entire community of our employees, and how we want to take the business to the next level.
Yes, great. I definitely agree with all the points which you have taken. Again, like the recruiters sometimes have to talk the business language as well, right? Because without understanding their pain point, we can't provide them the solution, right? So we have to first understand, then try to connect that dots with the solution, which might solve the problem. Great, awesome. So we have seen that you have been quite successful in your journey, but was there any moment in your life where you felt like nothing has been happening? Because there are many recruiters, many founders we have been talking in and around, many diverse female entrepreneur, or let's say female recruiters we have been inviting to our podcast. So they talk about their different challenges, different motivation factor, different issues. I also wanted to understand what have fired you to grow in your career to get the success what you have achieved so far?
Yeah. So multiple aspects, right, Prafulla? I think from the childhood, because I grew up in the era of 90s where being a boy in the family was mandatory, not like my parents were something like my parents were very proud of us. They were very proud that we have such amazing girls and everybody else. But in and around, people keep talking about stuff like, you have to have a bhaiya, you have to have a brother and all of that thing. So I had taken it upon me thinking, I'm the guy of the family. I don't care what others think, but I have to achieve. I have to show to the world that my parents, the way they, are proud of us, they deserve to be proud of us. That kind of feeling was there in from my childhood. Again, nothing to do with my family, nothing to do with anybody in specific. It was just the era, the kind of films we used to watch, the kind of serials used to happen, everything. It was a very societal conditioning. So that fire was there from the childhood. And I remember it very precisely. So witnessing one of the family situation where my hubby was not working and my brother was working. It was my cousin brother. And for one moment, he said, you don't have to buy this. And she said, like, I have not bought this from like really long time. I need to buy a certain item. And then he said, no, that's it. And I saw, I was a very emotionally sensitive child and very emotionally intelligent, I believe, because I was able to read her face that she was sad and she was not saying anything, but she was sad. And I came back and I shared this with my mom, and my mom said this to me. I remember a very specific thing, it was like my house was greenish color paint where a fan was running at a very slow speed. And I came back and I cried and I told it to my mom. And my mom said, she heard me and she said, everything is all right and everything and good. She bought that thing for my bhabhi. And then she came back and she told me, what is the moral of the story for this? And I didn't realize what she was talking about. But then she said, Sapna, you should always have your hand up and never hand your down. And that I get my goosebumps when I tell this, but that was a moment I realized you have to be always financially independent. You cannot be dependent on somebody else to ask the money. So that was another contributing factor for me to that I have to be successful. And there were moments in my life I did realize nothing is happening. I'm not doing it right. There's something missing. I do not know what to do. All of those moments where you start questioning your approach, you start questioning your doing things, you start questioning that am I even worth it? Because there are a lot of things were not intentional, but it all happens, right? And then the very next moment, all of these triggering factors come in that you have to have your hand up and you need to figure out a solution. There were a lot of people in this world who don't even have that position as what you have, don't even have that exposure what you have, don't even have things to say or to speak or to eat or do whatever. You have that, take it as a blessing, have that gratitude and see what is the way you can get out of this, you can get out of the situation and see how can you turn around. It is all about the mindset, Prafulla. If you at that moment realize you can either give in and say nothing's going to happen and exist at that moment, or you go back and you look at mirror and you say, this is what it is and you can do it. And then the things start turning upon. You start manifesting it. You start saying this will happen and it will automatically start happening.
Yes, I totally agree. I can relate similar story where my mom, I was very young at the time, probably like class 2, class 3 might be. So my mom told me that like I always wanted to work, right? I always wanted to give you the best life, but somehow because she had just done her 10th and she was from village and household responsibilities was the only thing but she always had that business mindset in her thought process and other things like, so she always inspired me and my sister that whatever you do, try to be independent, don't rely on everyone, right? For me also, she always told that treat everyone equally, right? So from very childhood onwards, she equally divided all the works between my sister and me. Even though it is jharu pocha, cleaning the house, doing the utensils, washing clothes, everything should be equal. If sister is doing this, I have to do the other thing, right? But one thing I definitely recall is she always asked me to empower everyone, right? To because she have not seen that. So if I get the opportunity, please help people, please guide people. So now my sister has 3 daughters. So I tell them that try to be independent as much as possible. Education is one of the things which will take you to that next particular level. So once you get the education, you can do whatever you want, right? So I can definitely relate similar kind of things. Okay. So I was going through your podcast, one of your podcasts before. I thought, let me prepare for this podcast. So I was trying to go to your LinkedIn profile and somehow I saw your one of the podcasts where you were talking Wonder Woman Wednesday, right? Good thing which I like, you focused about mentorship, right? Why mentorship is important in life. And you also talked about some of the vulnerability moment of your life and how it can help you grow in your career. But you have to realize those things, right? So can you quickly brief little bit about those aspects as well? Because as you know, this podcast is mostly to upscale, to empower not only women, but everyone who is not having that opportunity?
Yeah. Well, it took me a long time to go back and accept it. And I think Sneha Pai, who is actually the host of this particular Wonder Woman Wednesday, is doing an amazing job by getting all the women together and, bringing out those stories, which gives the other person to exist and accept and move on from that. So I think something which, as women, or probably in the community I grew up or I stay, miscarriages and pregnancy loss and child loss is something that's not spoken so much about. And, how it impacts your mental health and how it impacts your confidence and how the entire how do you deal with it as a human, because it's not an easy thing to deal with, especially when you have a mom who has given birth to 4 cute kids and you think, yeah, this is such an easy thing, I'll do it, and then you don't have to, you don't get to do that. And it hurts you, it questions like, what's wrong with me, kind of a question comes to your mind. And after losing my pregnancies and after losing my child, I literally had gone into like a black box, saying I don't want to come out of it, though my mentors started talking about it because they saw who I am more than I did. So I think sometimes in life, people who see you are your lighthouse, where you go back and you reach out to them when you really need them. I've been very lucky to have such kind of amazing persons in my life, Prafulla, and I'm blessed that I have such kind of nice people in my life. So when I was going through this, when I had gone to my black box, and my husband really tried getting me out. He was successful at such a moment, but I was not coming out fully. And then my mentor reached out to me, and and then she spoke to me, and that vulnerable moment I opened up to her, and I said, something is wrong with me. Why everybody is doing this and I'm not able to do it? It was such a vulnerable moment between two women who, to connect upon certain thing. I cannot express in my words what was that moment, but and then she said to me, saying, I understand your pain, but what are you going to do about it? There's something similar as my mom told me. What's the moral of the story? So what is the moral of the story? Like, yes, this has happened. Now, what are you learning out of it? And what are you going to do? And I think when I went back and I, did dwell upon this entire situation and said, what am I going to do? Am I a person who's going to be sitting and sobbing and crying about it? Or I'm going to accept my emotions, accept what has happened, and then move out of it. Correct? And it's not easy. I'm telling it very frankly right now, but it took me years to do this, Prafulla, and I came out of it. And I think one moment when I was talking to somebody in my transportation services, which we used to take from my previous company, we were talking about it, and I mentioned that, I'm lucky that my dad was working for cement factory, which was the Aditya Birla company. And if he wouldn't have done that, I would have been married by the age of 18. I would have had kids, and, I would have been doing this. I think what Mr. Aditya Birla, by opening a company and providing jobs to people, did is he did a generational impact, because my dad worked. He educated us. I'm working. I'm educating everybody else around me. So just by opening one job, he was able to make, 3, 4, 5 generations impact. Kumar Mangalam Birla and his family, wherever you are, be blessed. That really changed my thought process, saying, am I going to sob about things which is happening, or am I going to create an opportunity for myself where I'm able to cater to have a, generational impact? So that became my professional aspiration statement that, I'm going to go and make the company grow X, creating those jobs and making those families thrive and survive, and create the generational impact.
Yes. So one of the thing which I can relate, not everyone talk about, like, I think now people have started opening up, talking about mental health, talking about depressions and other things as well. So when you were talking about your moment, I was also back of the mind, I also had similar kind of moment, right? So during my MBA days, there were some issues with my family. My mom and dad were kind of in the process of separation, and it impacted this child for sure, right? So it somehow impacted me. And similar time I was also going through some kind of breakups. I was young. So all those moments put together, it was impacted me very badly on the mental health and other things. So same like you, I was stuck with a very small room. I don't want feel like coming out of my room. Whatever I do, I just sleep around. I don't want to eat. I don't want to go. I don't want to talk to people. I was just around that particular small room. Same like you, a black box kind of thing. So at the time, I was not knowing what was going on with me. I was not able to sleep. My roommates used to tell that I was doing sleepwalking as well. And somehow, whenever people sleep, I used to go to the terrace. I used to just sit there in quietly in some corner for hours of time, right? So, but somehow, because of God grace or whatever, a thought process came to my mind to write a diary, right? And I started writing diary. As a boy, it's sometimes very difficult for us to express our thought out, right? We can't share the things what's going on in our mind. So somehow, because of that diary, I felt so relief. I wrote everything, whatever is going on in my mind, all the breakups, the family stuff, what I'm feeling, how I am feeling, everything. And somehow that particular moment, I realized that it can be very difficult for everyone, the mental health, the depression. And now if I look back, hey, I think I have gone through this phase and I was not knowing that I was in a state of depression, right? But Clearly, when people talk around, it's good to hear. And similarly, like you were quite brave that you were able to talk to your mentor, and definitely having a mentor and talking to people help a lot to clear your thoughts out, right? If you hold back to your thought process, or if you don't share things, it doesn't give you any result, right? You are just stuck to your past, right? If you want to move ahead, you have to share, you have to let go those feelings, right? किसी ने मुझे बोला था कि अगर आपके हाथ ऐसे बन रहेगा, and other thing which also helped me is from very childhood I had that feeling. I was from a Catholic school, so there they taught us some of the proverb during the school days in the moral science: help others and God will help you somehow. And that stuck to my mind for a very long time. Now whenever I get chance, I try to help people without knowing that I want something from them or something. I just try to help people, right? And somehow those things have helped me to get out of those moments, I would say. But definitely, those are definitely a difficult moment. And thanks for sharing.
Well, I hope I empower whoever is listening and going through really bad and tough phase and going through any kind of loss. It's not easy to deal with, but there's the sun outside, and this moment will also pass by.
Yeah.
You have to just get your resilience up.
Yes. So I think we have spoken some of the very serious topic to make it light. So let's have a quick rapid fire round. So you just have to tell one word for every question I ask, right?
Okay. I'll try my best.
Yeah. So one word to describe yourself.
Passionate.
Okay. Any movie star you follow the most?
Not as such, but I love Ayushmann Khurrana and Shah Rukh Khan.
A leader you admire the most?
Indra Nooyi.
Biggest myth about leadership?
They know it all.
Okay. And if you want to go for a vacation for one particular day, which vacation or place you would love? And you don't think about logistics and other things, just one place you want to visit.
I don't have a place in mind, but I know what kind of environment I want to go to, a place where you have jungle and mountain and the river flowing by.
One movie which has helped you relate to your life?
The recent one, like Lapata Ladies.
Nice. It was very nice movie though. Yeah. Even I loved the movie.
It was such a great commentary on patriarchy
yes.
and the women who, I mean, such a subtle narration, and it has given you the women of choice, right? You want to be a homemaker, that's perfectly all right. You want to go and live your dreams, that's perfectly all right. It has made everything as an acceptance and as a wish and the marzi.
Yeah. Last question is one book which every individual should read.
My God, I have so many books. Master Your Emotions.
Okay.
I actually have that. I mean, I've read it multiple times, but I keep reading it again and again.
Okay. So what's this book's all about, Sapna?
So it's all about understanding, accepting what is it. Basically, so the way we grow up, right? Sometimes we are so taught about negative emotions and positive emotions. And, we always have been trained saying we should not entertain negative emotions. This book actually tells you that where the emotions come from and how they were, how our body and our mind from our, the caveman days have got those emotions to save us or to have to make us react in a certain way, and how the external stimulus is acting upon it. And then it's basically you identify, you acknowledge, and then you acknowledge where the emotion is coming from, and then you move over from there.
Yeah.
It's an amazing book.
Awesome. Great. So moving to our next question, which we'll try to cover a little bit about some of the challenges and overcome what you have done, plus what solution you have for other working professionals, right? Mostly women. So what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced while scaling up business? And what are the what did you overcome? Like, did you ask someone? Did someone mentor you? Or how did you overcome those challenges, Sapna, in general, in scaling the business?
So sometimes I'm going to answer it in two parts, Prafulla. Sure. One is that there's something which I really want, because we're talking about recruiters, and I know a lot of recruiters actually go back and look at this. I want to share one of my, experiences of a candidate experience is one, and then I will go back to your question. So I was interviewing with one of the biggest firms. And, I was supposed to go to Mumbai because of this job, and and I was in Bangalore at that moment. And the person who was interviewing me kept asking me, saying, why do you want to move to Mumbai? And I said, well, this is a good opportunity. I like the company. I really want to, do this justice. And that's the reason I'm planning to move to Mumbai, if this goes by. And then that guy mentioned to me saying, well, your husband is here. I was like, yeah, my husband before marriage was in Germany. He moved to India because of me. And if he finds a good opportunity, he'll move to Mumbai also. I mean, that's not a problem. That's an understanding between us.
Yeah.
And then he kept questioning me, and I said, I'm not understanding. What are you trying to understand? If you're trying to understand, I'm going to leave the company because my husband is not around. That's not who I am. And I'm going to be upfront about it, that if I really like the job and if I really like the company, like the community which you have built, I'm not going to leave. Don't worry. And that's what my resume says. I've been at least 5 years, 8 years in a company. I'm not going to leave you as soon as I join, because in a year. And then he asked me something which raised the biggest red flag in me. He said, how long have you been married? I said, I've been married for 2.5 years now. And he said, oh, planning a family. And I was taken aback. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. He's like, no, are you planning for a family? I said, everybody plans for a family. And then this is like a serious conversation that was going on, right? And then he asked me, Then he's like, okay, let me ask you differently. I said, please. And then he said, are you planning for a pregnancy? I said, of course I will, right? I'm married and I really like the kids and everything else. No, when are you planning? And I was like, I don't think I am accountable to answer that question to you. And I don't believe that has to do anything with saying this is what happened and this is the question I was asked. And I'm really interested to understand why was this kind of question asked to me. And that recruiter actually called me and blasted me saying, what are you trying to tell? I said, okay, let's pause here. You don't have to fight with me. I don't have to fight with you. If this is the kind of company culture you have, it's all right. I'm not the right fit for you. And I cut the call. But that tainted my, experience for that company ever. I will never, ever join that kind of a company where women is questioned like this. And when the HR actually goes back and protects the leader who has asked this kind of question, this is a complete no for me. The reason I'm bringing this out to you is because candidate experience within the interview process really makes and breaks the decision for the candidate to join the company or not. Gone are the days where people used to just look at bigger names and join the company. They actually know that, your life, you spend like 50% of your life at work. So you need to be surrounded with the right set of people. If you are a recruiter, make sure you are very aware of these kind of conversations and you can course correct as needed because there are policies around it. And in case if you're a candidate, this is a red flag. Do not join this kind of companies. And if you are a person who's a leader who's trying to answer, understand that even if women has to go through a pregnancy or not, just because one person left your company doesn't mean every woman will. So do not judge and assume and ask these kind of uncomfortable questions in the interview. I wanted to really address this in your podcast, Prafulla.
I think definitely as a recruiter. So for me, the prime focus is the candidate experience, right? So there are thousands of companies in and around you. If you don't provide a good candidate experience, so why do you think the person will join your company, right? So because recruiter are the first point of contact and it showcases the culture of the company as well, right? For me personally, I definitely try to connect with the candidates in a very friendly way. But I trust me, I have not asked those kind of questions as well, right? But
most of them don't, but just
yeah,
few of them do, and then it becomes a
yes,
mark.
yes. So definitely there are different types of questions which you should ask and which you should not ask. So as a recruiter, you should know what question might make someone uncomfortable. So those questions you might not ask. I would suggest as a recruiter, if anyone is watching this podcast, you have seen how Sapna was uncomfortable. Definitely, I as a recruiter was not comfortable when she was sharing. So it's a red flag for that particular company for sure. So you should know what are the questions you should ask. So prepare well and see with whom you are talking and what you are talking, right? Because we are the gatekeepers of any organization because we are attracting talent, we are talking to talent, we showcase the culture of the company as well.
Additional question saying, what are the challenges which I had to deal with, right? So there are multiple aspects in my job. So I'm going to touch upon something which this podcast audience would be looking at. When you're trying to scale the company, when you're trying to mass recruit like hundreds together, but you're trying to, scale your team being from 10, 20 to 200, there are certain aspects which you need to look at. For us, biggest problem was our bandwidth because there's only so much a person can do. There's only so much a person can interview, and taking interviews, it's a time consuming process.
Yes.
It is an important and crucial aspect. It is also mentally overwhelming aspect because you have to be so attentive because you're taking decision on somebody's career. There is somebody who's going to take, impact decisions of your career as well. So it has to be like a right match, right frame mindset and everything else. So when we were trying to scale and we were trying to do walk-in interviews and all of those things, so this was something which came out as a challenge saying there's only so much we can do. So what are the other ways of doing it, right? And then we started having, now it's no more a challenge. This is again, I'm talking about a 12-year-old story, but people started using stuff like hacker ranks and, written test and making sure that you go back and understand how exactly it is. Because a person who says no to a written test, is that the kind of person I would want? No. The person who's really interested, really wants to do it, will do a written test. That is what was a setting in our company. And I loved the suggestion which was given by my recruiter then, and I said, can we have this framework where we'll sort out the profiles and the people who are coming in are very high candidate and the conversion rate or profile would be very higher, because right now we are randomly taking people in just because with a skill set match, and then we are trying to the human filter is happening. Instead, we do this and then we can do. And believe me, the life became so much easier after that because we had like a 70% conversion rate. So every 10 candidates we interviewed, 7 of them we recruited. So that was a great match. So now coming back to our today's life, and we're again trying to scale, I believe AI has started playing a lot of game in a good and positive and a not so positive way. So one is that now it's because we are putting out job descriptions, people are trying to cater to the job descriptions using the AI, and then it has become so much difficult to look at his resume and understand what are the things which that person person is comfortable with and what other things are not comfortable with. So now filtering has become a problem. So it is more of AI versus AI rather than actual team. Now, having said that, I think what my company recruiters have done as an amazing job is like they have started using tools. This company also did this. They have started using tools in screening and profiling, and they started using tools in the candidates. They have started. There are basic set of questions which we as business had given our recruiters, saying only the proficiency level on a certain area or certain skill set is about certain thing. You go back and you do it. We had even given questions saying it's like a very specific answer that person has to give you. Only then we will be going ahead and choosing that person. Out of 100, the cut down would be 50. By the time they enter the the test, it would be around 20. By the time they come to us, it would be 10, and the conversion is automatically going up. So now we are not no more reviewing 100 profiles to get to a 7 number. We are just reviewing 10 profiles, or we are just reviewing 10 candidates or screening 10 candidates to get to a 7 number. So that has been a huge improvement. I think TA community has been very adaptive as well. They are also adapting AI. They are also utilizing generative AI for multiple use cases, and getting the profile conversion has been great. We are getting the right candidates. So
Yeah.
did I answer the challenge? Did I
Yes,
answer how we
yes.
adopted and how the solution part of it?
Yes, you have rightly answered it very nicely, which is relatable to the recruiters. So I believe it was a great answer. So again, like as a recruiter, we are also trying to adapt to the technology, to AI and stuff. So if you see in every phase of recruitment, AI is coming into picture now, right? Starting from job description, if you want to create a job description, you have AI. If you want to create a resume, you have AI. Now, their assessments were there, like you have mentioned HackerRank and HackerRank. But now, if you see AI has been involved as well in the assessment part also, right?
Yes.
So for taking interviews, listing profile, now AI has been doing lots of good things. But again, what we have been hearing it some or the other way, people are finding ways to go through this process as well, right? So again, it's not very easy way, but again, sometimes it's by looking at resume, you can't identify whether the person have done those kind of things or not till the time you interview the person as well, because people have lots of crazy ideas to do stuffs in and around AI as well, right? So those are one of the challenges which the recruiter are still facing and figuring things out, because we just see the resume, it looks very promising. When you talk, you understand, like again, like sometimes what people have do, they ask some of their friends to talk as well. So when we talk, we don't know whether that is a person or not, right? When you ask people to come down to face, then generally we understand that it is the real person. Moving to our next question, right? What advice you have for anyone to be successful in their career? Specifically, if you can relate that to the recruiter, that will be definitely a good answer, because this podcast will be mostly viewed by the recruiters. So over to you, Sapna.
Yeah, so I have seen some amazing talent acquisition specialists in my career, and I've come across and I've learned so much from them in terms of, analysis and, understanding all of those things. So the challenge which I had seen is like, because a lot of people do not do the day-to-day work, what business does. So a lot of time, the language becomes an issue. Language is not like an English language or a Spanish language. I'm talking about the language which the stakeholders or the business people understand. So probably learning that and then catering the kind of resumes they need, not only from the technical aspect of it, but from the soft skill aspect, from the mindset aspect as well, would be a great thing. And my advice would be understand, if you're working for a product company, understand what kind of product you're catering to, understand what kind of domain you're catering to, understand what your product, how it is making a difference to the world, and, understand which specific business stakeholder or what kind of specific business you're catering to. So if you are able to crack this combination, nobody can beat you and you will grow, 100x.
Yes. And as a business leader, you also have mentioned that you love some of the recruiters. So can you also tell us what are some of the things which the recruiters have done which you felt good compared to some of the recruiters which have not done?
Oh, yeah, I have list of them. But I'll tell you one thing. So earlier what used to happen is whenever I was trying to recruit for my team, I used to get on an email or in a tool like 20, 30 profiles, and I used to review them and then give my remarks, and then you go back, and then just to be like a churn of things. So one of my previous company, a guy named Subaya actually, but we will call him Subu because of love, and he said, Sapna, let's try something different. And I said, okay, I'm up, I'm a game for that. And then he came back, he booked a conference room, and he opened his laptop, he opened Naukri.com, and he said, what are the skill sets which are important for you? And he did this, and he just started typing that, and then plus this, and then he said, okay, what are the most, like, if you have this, it's an advantage, but if you don't have, it's okay. He started asking me those questions, though I had written everything in the JD, but he started asking those questions. He started doing the real time search, and instead of going through an entire thing, churn, we started sitting together and shortlisting profiles, and then used to call them up, do the understanding, make them go through the process, and give me saying that this actually saved so much of his and my time. And the sourcing of profiles was so solid that the recruitment part became so much easier. And then he also knew exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because there was, when you write and do certain things, yes, that's a good way of doing it, but there is always a human interpretation which happens, which could be different than the actual intent. But if you're talking in real time, this becomes so much easier. So having that kind of, for me, I don't know how many people, maybe majority of them do that, but for me that was a great thing which happened with me, because we were able to cut down almost like 50% of our turnaround time because of this small activity of half an hour.
Yes, I definitely agree, right? Because sometimes, even though you write good things, people might interpret in a different way, because it depends on multiple different factors as well, like what the person is understanding, right? What kind of mood that person is. If it is in hurry, he might read in hurry, right? So the environment matters, the way of reading matters, like the understanding matter, what kind of things he perceive, that matters, right? But when you are sitting together in a room and trying to do, or let's say in a call as well, if you take the hiring manager or the business team and do the sourcing together, you are trying to solve together the problem, right? It becomes much more easy, and there is a constant communication happening. In email, it might delay the process as well. So good to know, Sapna. Thanks for sharing your feedback. Great. Okay. So I think we are almost on a time. So with the interest of time, just one last question. So why do you think we should have a community, right? Because we are trying to build a talent acquisition community. So you might have seen your own product management or project management related community. So why do you think community is important in the growth of an individual, and how an individual can also contribute to the community?
So I'm going to give you a very relatable example, Prafulla. We all as Indians have either been part of joint families or have been growing up in joint families or have seen joint families. And, though that has its own advantages and disadvantages, one thing which has come in very handy is when somebody's in need, there's always somebody else available. Like if I'm in a nuclear family, I only have my mom and dad. But if I'm in a joint family, I have my chacha, tau, masi, mama, whatever, right? Everybody else available to be able to speak to them. Similarly, when you are in a part of community, everything becomes so much easier. For example, I'm trying to source, but I do not know where I'm not getting the right profile. I go back and speak in my community. If somebody else has experienced certain things and they have solved it, you don't have to, again, take those 10 steps to solve the problem. Somebody's already on step 10, they'll share it with you, right? That is something which is amazing. And then when you have a sense of community, you also have sense of belonging. And sense of belonging is so important, because though we work in our companies, we work as a team, there is something we always look for, where a similar person or a similar role is always going to, make you understand what exactly you're going through. It becomes so much easier to talk through your issues, talk through your challenges, talk through your success, and, help everybody else. So I believe community creates a sense of belonging, and sense of belonging is essential part of a human survival. So that's why communities are important.
Yes.
So I have engineering community, because I was an engineering leader. I have product management community. I definitely have agile transformation community. I have project management communities, and I have my Marwadi community. And now I'm joining your talent acquisition community as well.
Yes, yes. Great. So another question for you before we wind up our call. So I was also, as you have already know, that before preparing for the podcast, I was also going through your LinkedIn profile to understand different things about you. So I saw one of the photo of you where you were near a bike. So do you ride bike, and how was your experience? Because it was a cool photo I was seeing. So when did you ride? How did you learn?
Well, I started learning by motorbike after I got married, and it was more of me and my husband are very competitive with each other. So he said, "It's in your paega," and I was like, "Mere se kaise nahi hoega? I'll do it." And that's his way of making sure I start learning and doing new things. And then he taught me, and then I started learning it. And then we did the tour from Bangalore to the entire Kerala and Tamil Nadu on the trip in the first 5 years of our marriage. That was the first trip, and that is when I think I started really enjoying it. But after my medical issues, I had to now let go. So from past 2-3 years, I've not done that, but I really enjoy the amazing scenes and scenarios and everything else what you go through. And when you're riding a bike on your own, you learn you learn self-dependency, and you learn independence at the same time.
Yes. From that particular picture, what I can sense, definitely it's a confident, you are bold. It's also proof that we are equal. It doesn't, which is definitely a good thing, right? And when we see a woman or a girl riding a bike, it takes us a moment to look, hey, but it is a good thing, right? At least we feel good to see as well. And great, that was really amazing. With this, it's time to wind up our podcast. So overall, thank you, Sapna, for your time. It was an interesting journey of yours. We learned a lot of different things about how, being a Marwari background, your family have given importance to the education, the growth, the learning, and how, even though there are challenges in your life, and how you have overcome those challenges with help of your mentors, with help of your own confidence or willingness, I would say, right? Plus how you have been also partnering with different recruiters, right? How you are trying to solve some of the business cases as well, because human capital is also important factor of any business to be successful.
The most important factor, Prafulla. We might have 100% strategy. We might have the amazing technology, but if you don't have the right people, it's not going to work.
Yes.
People are the most important aspect of any business.
Yes. So with this, Sapna, thank you so much for sharing about you and your journey. I was like, even one of the time I had goosebumps for you were talking about your life and all. So it was really interesting. And it also helped me open up as a host to share my stories as well, my mom details as well. So thank you so much for your time, Sapna. It was lovely talking to you. Looking forward for more insightful discussion in future. So once again, thank you.
Oh, the pleasure was mine, Prafulla. It was great. I've been, fan following your podcast. I've been hearing amazing stories. You're doing a good job. It's not about, it's not about who is singing or what is happening or not. It's about taking that one seat, one thought, one human, and you are making an impact. That's all matters.
Just I'm trying to learn different things, because when I started, I was not very confident talking. Even though I am a recruiter, people assume that I'm very confident talking to people, talking to camera and other things. But initially when I started, I was very nervous, very shy. So I have still kept my first video recording in YouTube just to remember that, hey, I was not good, but it's still okay. We have started something, right? And now if I see there has been a journey and I have improved my confidence level, I'm not so shy. I feel good enough to talk to people as well. So, but overall, thank you so much for your time, Sapna.
Thank you for sharing your life with me. Thank you for sharing your, moments with me. It's not easy for, I've been surrounded with guys. Believe me, it's not easy for them to open up and talk. So you are talking about your personal life. You are very empowered, Prafulla.